right. Well, welcome back, team. Part 2 of Build a V6 Lab for free, or Build an IPv6 Learning Lab for free. If you weren't here in the first session, the lab has been built and we're playing. If you were here in the first session, we're going to continue on with more looking and more playing around, as it were. Part of it, again, going to be more related to kind of the V6 in mind, but it's, again, it's a virtual environment. You could do all kinds of things with it. There are tons of either VMs or ISOs, Docker images, in and around networking topics, especially InfoSec topics, almost to the point you could just use your favorite search engine and just, do InfoSec VMs, all right? Networking VMs, and you could find all kinds of things out there. Getting the foundation system built, yes, takes a little bit, but you don't have to jump into it big. You don't have to go, well, I want a VOS router and all these configs. It may take you a little bit, so start slow. And you can get a lot of the prepackaged, pre-configured things, okay? So we're still in the original system that I was playing with here, kind of my my two-sided virtual environment, one router only, basically 3 legs of a network, but really I'm only working with the 2 east-west wing looking systems. So with that in mind, we had seen the varying devices kind of being able to ping each other. The last thing was I had fired up Kali. And I think what I'm going to do now is stop this capture on this link. Again, part of the other great feature of not only being able to capture on a link, but when you stop it, all it does is go to Wireshark and just say, we're done. And now all I have to do is figure out which one it was. Oh, see, it's got the stop button lit, so he's still running. And I'll just, do this the hard way. Here we go. So Wireshark will stay up running. Remember, Wireshark will be running on the host system, and it will still be up with all your packets. So you can very easily go back through and snoop through the packets like normal, do all your normal Wireshark work, right? And save the packet. Now, at least for me, the only thing that I would proffer is save the packet with some good information. I know that's kind of all, of course, but even to the point of maybe keeping your link information in it, just so that you know when you go look at it later where that capture was from, right? I do a lot of date and time and project, but now, especially if I'm doing it through a GNS3 system, through a particular link, then I keep that link information in there just to be handy. In this particular case, I'm not so worried about it, so I'm not going to save it. So with that in mind, I think what I'd really rather do is go back over here and capture on the link coming out of the router. So that way I see pretty much everything going in and out there. And again, I'm going to filter down very quickly to just my own V6 only traffic, and we'll kind of let that play over here. So a little bit of what I want to talk about next is playing with a little bit more of research and a little bit more of the learning mode, and just saying, well, what can I do? Kali includes some nice utilities for V6 operate or V6 work, okay? V6 attack, V6 recon, whatever you might want to call it. In particular, there's what I'd say 2 specific V6 related utilities. One called the Hacker Choice IPv6, and the other one's called the SI6 Toolkit. And those 2 were written by people who were in their early V6 learning days. 15 plus years ago, I think, for both of them, and they wrote those utilities for themselves, to help themselves by doing certain things with the packets, injecting certain components of the packets in order to find out what would occur if certain things happen. So it's same kind of concept here that we think about is that I could, and Nmap, I didn't say that not as a specific V6 utility, but certainly as a utility that offers you, pretty much all your V6 side of the tools. And, we'll just run a couple right quick. first off, I've got to get the right addresses, right? So we do a quick little map in map, do a check on v6, right? So -6 on an nmap command, and then, whatever it is you might want to be doing. And, we can see. Now, another bit of kind of info that you can consider here is mimicking, a production network, and say, okay, let's build up a network segment that looks like production, exactly, right? Where you're doing it exactly as it is. And then if it's not a v6 enabled network, load up v6 and then see what happens. One of my other presentations that I do is a v6 attack demo, attack recon. And I actually come in from the outside world on v4 to a network that's not running v6. And I fire up a VirtualBox, and then I fire up a VOS router, and then I fire up a Kali Linux and a couple of other Linux hosts. And I sit there and find out that I can light up v6 on all these hosts and nobody's watching. It's a red team's dream to be able to go recon all over the network without anybody watching. It's a blue team nightmare where they said, how did you do that? We're not running v6. Yes, we know. Thank you. And because you're not running it, you're not watching for it. And because you're not watching for it, I can do whatever I want. I sit there and take control of hosts. We find out routers that aren't configured for v6, except v6 in a newer version of their code is now enabled. You can light it up. It's enabled for DHCP v6 on the main interface. Oh my goodness, it's a great time. So Kali Linux or any of those other tools, they don't have to be run under Kali, they just happen to be included. But now we can start kind of watching this with v6 and see what's going on, in some of these tools. I don't know what else I happen to have up and running in here. And then I should find my notes. Seems like I've got a lot of v4 stuff in here. What's that all about? Oh, here's one of my fun ones. Okay, so if you can see my Kali screen, and we're down at the very bottom, I am going to run a utility that is going to send out a router advertisement. A router advertisement doesn't have to come from a router. It just has to be a formatted packet, correctly formatted router advertisement packet. And we're going to do that. We're going to send out a router advertisement on ETH0. Now, I'm not going to send out ETH0. I want to send it out ETH1. All right. And whoops, if I don't do it just right. All right, ETH1. We are going to send out a network prefix of 2001 DB8 5168888. Well, 516 is my code for SI6 toolkit. This is an SI6 tool. All right. We are going to turn on the A and the L flags, which means we're set up for auto address configuration, Slack. All right. We're sending out a source MAC of 01s. We're sending out the destination, the appropriate multicast address on link multicast. All right. And a few more bits that get set in these flags. When that happens, all v6 enabled devices on that subnet should react appropriately. And in the reacting appropriately is they just got a router advertisement. They are supposed to do what it tells them to do. Now, that's the generic statement about a router advertisement in the RFCs. However, there is some ambiguity as to, well, do you drop what you had in favor of new? Do you keep what you had and add the new? Do you keep what you have till it times out and then do the new? And the answer is, yeah, all the OSs do bits and pieces of that, okay? Some do it differently because it doesn't explicitly state how. These are parts of the learning where you've got this little lab and now you've got the tools and now you can discover what to expect. And oh, by the way, different, let's just say updates to a given version of an operating system may react differently. So you can't just say, oh, all my Windows 10s will do this. All your Windows 10s will do that only if they are all exactly at the same rev patch levels, all right? Not one at 1/2 2020 and one at 1/2 2021. they may not react the same. These are things that you think about testing, especially in a production environment. You got to find out all your versions. Linux is the same way. Mac OS is the same way. All right. So this particular one is a pretty drastic sending out these router advertisements. So I almost expect over here now where my Wireshark is running behind the scenes, I should start to see some red packets. I should start to see some of my not DHCP's packets, but I'll start to see some DAD packets. Okay, once I run this, we'll flip over here. But these are parts of the learning journey here. Oh, I know what. I chose ETH1. ETH1's not the router interface. ETH1 is the local. Okay, yeah, Jeff, messed up. Okay, let's try that now. And go. All right, so let's do this real quick. Let's look at V6 router advertisements. And what we should see here are, yeah, there's the A501. That's my VIOS. Okay. Let's, as they say, verify all of this information. So let's do a show interface of an Ethernet of ETH1. And we see ETH1 is over here at A501. Well, I've got this other one here at 23FF. All right. And that's going to be this guy's particular interface over here. Do I still have his? There he is, 23FF. So it's coming from Cali. I've got some profiles in my Wireshark configured to help me look at router advertisements a little bit quicker. I've got these columns set up. And of the columns, I'm really most interested in M flags and A flags, okay? But I also have another one for all the columns. There's 4 specific router advertisement columns that we really do care about. The A flag, the M flag are the primaries, but also the L flag and the O flag. We can see here though that they're all set the same. So both of these router advertisements are set for effectively Slack level operations. So I'm gonna go back to my normal looking view here, and we can click on one of these. We can open this up and we can see a few things about this. One, there's its MAC address at all 01s. We can see the prefix information. There it was, 2001 DP 5168888, and the A flag is on. So now let's go look at GNS3 and say we should see an effect on the Win10 and the Rocky hosts. So let's go look at those real quick. Real quick, he says. All right, Rocky 1, and let's just look at its interfaces and what we should see in here. And we do is 2001 516 DB8 2000. Yeah, 2001 DB8 516 8888, and he's got an address. That is expected. He also still has his other address, which is expected generally. Okay. So this client has 2 networks that he can communicate to on V6. Let's go look at Windows 1. Windows 1, there we go. And we should see similar down here. IP config. Let me bring this font up just a little bit here. Sorry, I hadn't done that before. Make it a little bit easier to read. And make our screen a little smaller. All right, we'll just bring it up one more time. So we see the same thing. In this version of Windows, they are configured for not only Slack, but for Slack with also the random, not only the Slack with random number generator, but the temporary address. So we see that I've got 2 8888 network addresses, the temporary, which is the primary, and my static at the moment address, and the temporary will change. Interestingly, though, over here in Rocky, we don't see a temporary address. That's because they turned that particular flag off. You can also do that in Windows OSs. So one thing we notice here is that not only did that router advertisement, which I should go shut off here. Let me drop into Kali and stop that. We've got what we want. Okay. So we stopped that rogue router. Not only did these OSs do what they should have, in this particular case, they both kept their previous network address. So they really have two places to go. And if I was really doing something pretty drastic, I potentially could have had everybody come to me, the rogue router, as their default gateway. Actually even potentially shortened their other network address timer, and then have them come to me as the new default gateway, and then I could have forwarded their traffic to the real default gateway. All right, so then I become the device in the middle, even though I'm kind of like one leg off. So from a, I would call it network testing and troubleshooting and attack and recon type perspective, there's a lot you could do here. Kali just happens to be a tool. I can run those tools in one of my VMs. I actually just have them running on Ubuntu. You just install the tools locally. But again, they're included in Kali, so that's kind of cool. And so those are some of the things we could start to do, right? I can pick this up and I can move it into different network segments so that I can configure, oh, well, this is a Slack world. If I want, I could, disconnect here and reconnect over here and do attack on DHCPv6. One of the other things I wanted to show over here was the DAD tests, okay? So as we saw occur, after those packets came through, we started to see these new addresses come through, and here they are. All right. We see this device saying, okay, I've got to run the DAD test. The DAD test has to be run every time I either get a new or a renew of an address. Okay. For whether it's linked local, whether it's my global unicast, my route outside route capable, if it's a EULA, inside route capable, whatever. All right, I always have to do the DAD test for my interface, and so we can see these in here, happening on all of these devices. So just one of those things we can kind of prove in this V6 journey that we're playing here. How do you get to Cisco router switches? Okay, Sri, I'm going to do that in about 30, well, maybe less than 30 minutes. I'll show you about that, because we're going to do it a couple different ways actually, but I'm going to do virtual and I'm going to do physical. So yeah, cool, great. All right, team. I'm making sure everything's okay, looking at more questions. Looks like we're covered at the moment. So sorry, it took me so long to get back to you on that, Sri. Let me move that screen over. Maybe I'll see these a little bit better. Okay, so DAD test, we saw the traffic. We can even see, is there any DHCPv6 traffic going on? No, not in the time of these packets that we've captured. Okay, we've not seen any DHCPv6 traffic. So that is, I want to say it this way, this is not necessarily unexpected, okay? And I say that because in Windows 10, or excuse me, in Windows OS, they have their network configuration button configured as such where they will actually do DHCP whether they were told to or not, okay? And this is my hypothesis. When you look at the network properties in the Windows 10, look at v4 first, right? And we know that v4 whoops, I meant to click properties or double click it. You either, the OS is configured to either get its address automatically, i.e. DHCP, or statically, like this is set to static. However, the v6 interface has the same code in the same buttons. To me, it looks like the developers just lifted the code from v4, made it work for v6, and put it there. And humbly, I don't agree with this, but they didn't ask Jeff. That's okay. Because we are truly dependent on the router advertisement to tell us, the client OSs, what to do in getting an address. We either get everything we need to do to build it, or we ask somebody for it. With this button default checked, it will always ask. It will be sending out DHCPv6 requests, even though it wasn't told to. Now that's, in my mind, not a good operation, especially for this view of that I want these devices to get their addresses via Slack. If you invoke a DHCP router advertisement in here, a Windows 10 client will more or less accept that and ask for it. Okay, so I guess the thing is, I haven't done this as a try. Let's try it. What happens if I change this rogue router advertisement from A and L, and let's just see if I can add M to it. All right, so it would be a Slack and a manage flag, which would force a client, in this case, force the client to do a DHCP request. Yet on that network segment, I don't have a DHCPv6 server. So I'm going to try this. Oh, error in the flags. Now that could very well be a couple of things. One, I don't have them in the right order, or two, that's not the right flag. And because I'm literally trying this as we just talk, it appears I don't know what the right flag is. So it's going to take me more time to research that. Next time I'll have that one down. So we won't do that. But anyway, that would be part of, a potential type test that you would do and say, well, what happens if? And that becomes one of those things that can be a lot of, I would say, fun in the journey. All right, what happens if? How things are going to react. Even, again, the nice thing about the GNS3 or the EVNG front ends is being able to put a lot of meaningful information, on your diagram here, and more. I mean, I have just what I need to do, what I'm working with, and that's just fine. Okay, so we've played with a what I call it a base level network, and we've had a lot of fun here. Well, let's add to it, and in the mode of not having to, well, let's see, maybe we can try this. Let's give this a try. So I've not done this exactly this way before. First off, I'm going to hang down on this VS router. I want those other devices. So let me see if I've got a picture of that real quick that I can show you. One moment, please. Oh, actually, it might be there. Nope, that's not the one I want. I'm sorry, folks. There it is. I want to build this. Okay. So in order to hang another couple of routers down here, I'm just going to put a switch in to make it easy. I potentially could add more interfaces to my VS router, but I didn't want to. I actually wanted to do a little bit of super netting. All right. So that I've got Cafe as my network, kind of my core network in this world. And then these guys actually are on other networks. I've got a /48, so I've got 65,000 /64 networks I can play with. All right, so that's what we're going to attempt to build here. So here's how we're going to do it. Nice little treat. I need a switch. All right, just a plain old Ethernet switch. And this is actually going to allow me to show you a couple of things. Where do I want that switch to run? Let me do something right quick. Let me see where I had these running from. Oh, actually, I can do this. These switches are running on the GNS3 VM. So if I move the mouse, I can't get to it. But look at the second line, running on server GNS3 VM. Okay, so you might have noticed when I did a click and drag that resource over, it says, where do you want to run it? On the host computer or on the VM, the GNS3 VM? And it's like, oh, run it on the GM. or the GNS3 VM. So here's one thing. The GNS3 device icons are default. There are a few people who have written and have published for free other icon libraries. And yeah, I like some of these flat ones a lot better. So right off the bat, one of the things I want to do here is I'm going to change this icon, change this symbol. And I've already got my libraries loaded. It takes it a moment. We're going to bring up this new library. And let's just put in a red one to make it much different. And I'm going to go ahead and do just another switch. That way I know it's not doing any routing. It's just a layer 2 switch. And so now I've got an icon, a little bit nicer icon. You could build your own. In fact, I think the 2 individuals that have built these libraries have done them both for GNS3 and EVNG. All right. And open source them. Search on GNS3 symbols. Okay, that's the first part. The second part is, let's go ahead and build the connection here. So we come down here to this bottom, and it looks like an RJ40, a one-ended, by the way, one-ended RJ45. We're going to add a link. We click it. I want to click on my VIOS. I only have one interface available. And then I'm going to click on it, just hover down to switch 3, click once. And it actually went on to a point. I didn't want it to do that. So let me, I need a little bit more room here. Let me do this. Okay. Let's delete that line, move that out of the way again, go from ETH3 to ETH0. And depending on X, if I needed more interfaces, I potentially could even go in and modify the parameters of that switch and add more interfaces. Or maybe I don't want that many interfaces. And then you can start to do a little bit of laying out like I'm doing. You can change your font sizes and, bold or not bold, etc. All right. Oh, that was related to the Kali, and that was related to Kali. So yeah, we'll kind of move the Kali stuff around a little bit. So I've got a switch down here. That's step piece 1. The next thing is, let's add, in my particular case, an AOS switch. And mine, which one do I have? Oh, I closed that screen. I'm trying to remember which one I use. Sorry, team. Yet again, didn't quite have everything together here. Oh, I went the wrong way. 710. So let's make sure I've got that one available. 710. So it looks like I do. So I can drag this down, and we'll kind of give it a little bit of space as well, and click on that tab over here to kind of move that stuff out of the way again. And we'll pretty up the picture. Let's go ahead and connect this in, and I'm going to connect them up to port 1 to this guy's. I think I want that on the port 1 that gets them into production. Yeah. All right. And I already have this device icon changed on to an icon that Aruba provides, Aruba networking. Oh, by the way, team, yes, I work for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Yes, Aruba Networking is an HPE company. No, I am not selling Aruba, and I'm not pushing it. It's just a bit of tech that I have access to. All right. For that matter, we could come over here, and I'm going to choose a Cisco ISV 1516. That's that free one right here. So we'll come over here and put the Cisco device in, and we'll go ahead and do its connection from port 2 to his gig 00. Click on the link connector again, and we can do a little bit of layout. So the pretty takes time, no doubt about that. I'm just kind of doing it here to help us a little. All right, kind of see where things are at. And as they say, they're there, they're connected. I had a configuration on Ethernet 3 coming out of this router. All right. So we see that he's at 6 Lab Cafe, and I could even take this and duplicate it. Duplicate. No, bring it down here. Edit it. Edit it. And it was Cafe. And I think he was at 1. I didn't even look that close at it. Cafe, oh, F254, okay. So anyway, well, maybe that's not that important. Documentation is a big thing. All right, F254. Okay, so we've added a device. We could bring us up, we could fire it up. Actually, the thing you might remember about that particular device on here is that it, I'm not sure I get a console, is that he's running over here on VirtualBox. There we go. So Kali powered up. Yeah, in this particular case, I'm trying to remember now. I think that, oh yeah, this is my problem. Okay. I can tell him to go on, but the API doesn't work correctly. It's not a GNS3, it's not a VirtualBox, it's the AOS 6 switch. I think I actually have to turn it on. I haven't done this in a while. Still all virtual equipment, and then I can come over here and I can close that view because we're not going to see it there. We're going to see it in this view through VirtualBox. So this is where it gets to be a little fun and challenging sometimes, again, depending on all the variables, and that's kind of where I discovered it. It didn't, using the AOS CX didn't work exactly like it works in VMware Workstation, which is where I actually had my knowledge. When I started playing with it with this is where I learned it operates a little bit differently. So, you learn these things as you go, and just a big part of that journey. So this is going to take a minute or two for it to come up. But that becomes part of the premise. You find these things. You bring in an open. Oh, what was that? Somebody just had. I forget the open. Oh well. I know we used to find it on access points, and now you can get it in firewalls, everything else. Let me see if I've got even my words all right here. I may not have. Oh my goodness. Okay. So let's look at this config and let's see what it is. Oh, he's got beef on one side. Oh, he's got cafe. Okay. So in theory, because he's got on his interface 111, and he's got cafe at F252, and the VIOS is at F254, he might work. Now, I want to say it that way because earlier when I brought up this VIOS router, I did not have its Ethernet 3 connected, and its link local didn't come up. So now I'm not so sure that this guy will actually ping down, or ping up, I guess we could call it. So as they say, we'll try this and see what we get. And so he's not pinging up, and he's probably over here, not going to ping down. although when we do show interface ETH3, yeah, well, he's got his link local. And he's got, well, maybe he still may not have come up all the way. I was planning to restart with a different config or with a new GNS3 config that had everything in it. But I also thought I would just show you what that looked like in adding F252, right? F252 on that guy. Yeah. The in theory is it should work, you know, we love the in theories. I also happen to have a default route for this OSCX router that said for everything you don't know, go up. Effectively in v6, you always use link local addresses as your next hop links, all right? Like in routers, you do not use the global unicast address, only because it is considered more possible to change than the link local, all right? So basically it's just the way the code and the RFC is written. So you always point to that link local address, which means you've got to figure it out. Now, the other thing that's more interesting when we start talking about all that is that, well, what happens if you replace a device? A link local address may change. Well, some infrastructure OSs allow you to statically assign a link local, like you see here. In this AOSCX, which I did statically assign those link locals, all right? And that way the code is portable. If I get another switch in there, it's the same code. And that way the link locals stay. The downside is in VIOS, at least the version of VIOS that I'm running, is that you can't statically assign the link local address. So if you build a new VIOS, your link local address might change. And you would then have to go change everything else that connected to it if they're being used as a default route or as a route. So just, again, little tidbits you learn as you go through, in this particular case, the v6 journey. Now, the only other thing is what I could do real quick, and this is going to be my last thing, is let's put a trace up here, which is what I should have done before. And let's just see if we ping cafe going up, and we're not seeing anything there. Will we see anything over here? Get into it. Ping cafe 252. Well, we're seeing some traffic. All right, we're seeing you'd like to do a neighbor discovery resolve, so that, you know, he's trying to say, hey, where is it? Neighbor solicitation in this particular case. Where is it? And I'd love to talk to him, but we didn't see anything coming out. Now, it doesn't mean it's on this side, right? So we can come over here and put a capture right here just to make sure, you know, that final bit of testing. And that's, again, I know I've said that a lot, but it really has to sink in. Did for me that you can do these traces on every segment and it kind of verify. So at this particular case, I can't exactly say what that problem is. Now, one other thing is I can also say, is it source? What is it? G? No. The downside in this particular view is you've got no scroll capability. So I got to keep doing things. Oh, what's my interface? Oh, interface 111, not G. All right, so let's try source 111. So there, I'm more than anything else, I'm just trying to force that connection or that ping to go out, you know, that interface. So I'm actually going to say it's somewhere over here on my AOSCX switch. So as they say. It should be the little horn, wah, wah, wah. But that's okay. OpenSense, thank you, Lito. Sorry, I just now saw it. Yeah, OpenWRT, OpenSense, PFSense. Yeah, PFSense I've played with. I just not played with OpenSense. I probably should one day. We can do similar thing. Let's minimize that. Let's bring up the Cisco and let's just see what'll happen. So that's the VIOS. Thought I said console. There he goes. Okay. So this Cisco router is booting. Again, this is the free code. You still have to have a Cisco login, but the login doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to give a credit card or anything other than just basic info. And then go search in software and search on the iOS V. And it's an older version in the 15 train. Even some of the newer versions, you can't download without a SmartNet. But found this one a few years ago, tried to upgrade it, and I think I could go like one dot level more. I think I had a 2 or a 1, and then I could go to 2. But again, for basic V6 work, it does what I need. I'm not running production networks here, right? It's a lab. And it's handy for those that want to do Cisco. You can also even subscribe to Viral's platform, and you get the legitimate ISOs, okay? Or I can't remember if it's an ISO or a VM, but you get those legitimately, and you don't have to run them on the Viral platform. You just have to have the subscription. And also, if I remember correctly, those OSs will also do a periodic, what I call phone home. They'll do a check-in like every 7 days. And if you don't have them capable to talk to the subscription server, then they apparently don't work or don't fully work. They somehow go into a state where it's not as usable. I don't have that, so I don't know exactly what that is, but those are things that I've read. So there are legal ways to get code from every one of the vendors. It's just more typically, well, I'd say 50% of the time it might cost, or you might find an older version that they had before they went to we're going to start charging for them. Or sometimes you can get an eval version of their code as well, maybe a 30-day use trial. So it just depends. So I'm kind of waiting. This Cisco router may take a little bit longer than I was thinking of booting. So we're going to kind of let that go. I need to tangent over for a minute. So I showed you a whole lot here. All right. We can add some devices, bring more things in. This is an all virtual world. The other thing that I really wanted to show, like I say, we'll come back to this, is a physical switch out of the virtual environment and them talking together. And I literally just got it going right before we started. So let me kind of do this. Let me, for a bit of not keeping everything so busy, I'll make this screen a little bit bigger. So this is a GNS3 running on this computer. I'll call it my presentation computer, all right? Not RDPing, it's GNS3. I run VirtualBox, okay? Excuse me, VMware Workstation, all right? So here's VMware Workstation Pro. Here's the GNS3 VM, okay, that's running. And I got a lot of other VMs I run or potentially can run. But in this particular case, I'm not running any of those, okay? It's a similar looking view of the last V6 lab. In fact, a lot of it was lifted up and just done a little bit differently. I put in 3 flavors of Linux: the Rocky, the Ubuntu, the Alpine. The Ubuntu and the Alpine are Docker images. The Rocky is a VM, but and the Windows VM, but they are actually VMs that are running over here. So there's my Rocky VM. I'm not actually sure where that Windows VM is. Now that I think about it, I was looking for that earlier. It's hiding around in here somewhere. I may have named it differently here, but that's okay. Show you a little bit about this config real quick. If we look at the GNS3 preferences, I've got the QEMU VMs. So this is where some of these AOS CXs and some of the Cisco's are running. I've got, oh, there's where the Windows 10, it's under VirtualBox. Well, that's really cool. So I'll show you that in a second. My Windows VM is on VirtualBox. My Rocky 1 is under VMware. And again, that the Ubuntu and the Alpine are running as Docker images. So I wanted to have a lot of fun with having all kinds of different systems running. All right. This switch is part of GNS3. Here is my host computer up here. All right. This particular link is on a virtual network interface, VMnet 15. All right. VMnet 15 is down here configured. It is just that. It's a VMware virtual network interface. He's got some v4 and he has no v6. If we look at real quickly, I know I'm going through a whole lot of screens in virtual in VMware. And again, one of the reasons why I like it so much is that you can configure a lot of virtual interfaces. You can link them to the host computer. All right. This VMnet 15 is this particular network. It's listed as a host only, which means it can only be used from the host computer and the VMs. Okay. I've got another one up here. This VMnet 10 that's bridged to a VirtualBox interface. This is where I have a lot of fun with this, okay? I've got another virtual network interface that's bridged to the primary network adapter. So you can do a lot more work here than is possible in VirtualBox. In VirtualBox, the VMs can link to external interfaces, but you can't make a VirtualBox virtual network link to a physical, where you can in VMware, or in this case, a virtual in VMware links to a virtual in VirtualBox. It's just a lot of fun. It really, really is. So with all of those bits of info, what we have here is on this host laptop, I have a network adapter known as Ethernet 3. I'm gonna go back to that again. Ethernet 3 is a USB Ethernet adapter, all right, called Ethernet 3. Ethernet 3 has maybe some config on it. Nope, no v4 and no v6. All right, so it's just effectively an adapter in the host computer. Well, when I want to make this connection of this Cisco switch, well, it's not really anything GNS3 knows about. You get to cheat a little bit. What you do is that you bring over what's called a cloud type device. All right. I'll throw it kind of down here. And then you say, where are you running it from? Well, in my case, I want it to be linked to the host computer because that's where that physical Ethernet adapter is plugged into that physical switch. So we're going to link it from the notebook. All right. We're going to change that from a symbol called cloud. Okay. And we'll do the same thing that I did like into that other one. This may take it a second here. We'll let it roll. Change that to one of those other symbols that are really cool. I'm hoping we're going to be able to do this. It's bogging down here a lot. Finally getting that answer, how we get to the real world stuff, right? And this is where the labs can be just tremendous amounts of fun. You may have a lab quote at work, you know, whether it's a rack in the house or a rack in the office or a rack at a data center, rack wherever. And yeah, we're having a little bit of problems here. We gotta let this time out now. And you may have remote access to that. Well, you could do a similar type operation that I'm doing here. You bring over a cloud device, which is just a generic, allows you to configure any of your host computers, adapters to it. And then you configure that adapter to somewhere in your virtual environment. And that's what I got into, whatever this state is that it's in X. It'll come right back again. So I've got to talk through this. I can't even do anything. Move windows. Let's go back over to this guy. Let's see where we're at. I may have done that. I'll look at our GNS3 here. It should be that physical switch. So what I did with that, and I'll show you in its, you know what? Let's just cancel. So go back on the Cisco. I changed the symbol and I said, because linked to the computer, here's all the different interfaces of that computer. There's Ethernet 3. So then when I went to build a connection from that Cisco, I chose Ethernet 3. Well, Ethernet 3 is really that Ethernet adapter over on the laptop. All right. And then I connected it the other end to this virtual switch. It actually would look a little bit more like this, okay? It would look like the Cisco to the laptop and down. That's really the way it is, okay? But logically, and we'll kind of call it operationally, it's working like you see it. So now one of the things that I can do is fire up, and I thought I had one, a capture. All right. Right there. I'll bring up Wireshark. And we'll see if this is going to work. I think I actually had another one going. All right, V6. All right. So there is the router advertisement that is coming from Vios. All right. We've seen that one probably, and that's okay. My Cisco config, I'll show you that. So I've got from this computer, show run interface VLAN 2511. This is the layer 3 interface going down or connected to this logical interface. All right. He's got an address. He's in 6lab 2511. He has V6 enabled, but we have router advertisements suppressed, which means don't send out router advertisements. All right. So if we look at a few screens here, let's bring all of these screens up. Here's kind of the GNS3, right? Here is the Wireshark that's kind of back here. Here's the Cisco, not through GNS. It's just a real Cisco switch, all right? A real switch 10 feet away from me, all right? And if we come over here and do things like show IPv6 neighbors, we probably see some traffic had been going on before. Yeah, there's 2511. So let's just do a ping. All right, let's do a ping. All right, we're going to ping to 2511, which is the ETH0 down here on the Vios. And he worked, and we can see our echo replies. I think I have a console to VIOS. I do. All right. I had already done this before. Ping over to Cisco, and he pings. All right. So here's the Cisco. So there's a real Cisco MAC address, not a fake one. That's that real switch. All right. I can't take the camera to show you, but just trust me. And then here is our virtual adapter on the VIOS. So that is, kind of the quick of how you can get to get from this virtual environment to the physical world. You're going to have to go through your host. You're going to need, I would say, another interface. But if that host computer is not doing anything else but lab, okay, lab working, then fine, use the built-in interface. But however you want to do it, but that's the real linkage. Like I say, though, logically it looks like this. Physically, that connection is on the laptop, because that's the only place I can get it. But this is how you can do it. And you can have multiple, I could have multiple Ethernet adapters on this computer linked out to all kinds of different switches. I could go to the outside world. In fact, this Cisco switch is connected to the outside world, okay? Tell you what, let's just ping something really fun. Ping in Facebook. There's Facebook's address. Remember how I said don't use hex words in your public facing addresses? Look at that. Facebook has given me 32 bits of addressing right there. They've given me 64 bits of addressing right here. I'm down to now, I only got to go attack 32 bits worth of addresses. Woohoo! All right. Did I say that out loud? But what I don't have in all of this is I don't have a way for this private network to get out because there's no NAT. So I can get up to, from these devices, up to this Cisco. And in fact, let's just fire this up right quick, because I am now getting down to, hang on a minute, I need to get my clock back. Oh, I'm down to minutes. All right, so let me do that. Making sure questions, comments. Okay, we're good for the moment. Let me start this little Alpine, because he's the quickest one to go. And let's bring up a console for him. And remember, he's running as a Docker image. Wait, does he have IF config? No, is it IP? It is. No, it's IP. There it is, IP8. All right, so we see his address is down here on the 201 network. All right, so really what I want to do is, can I ping that Cisco switch from a virtual thing through a virtual thing? Through a virtual device to a virtual device, probably better English, sorry. To 2511 at F254. Look at that. All right, we see those packets going. If we come over here to the Cisco switch, where's my Cisco at? Not there, here. All right, do a show IP config neighbor. Well, you're probably not going to see that one, right? Because it's not a real neighbor, but I do still see my connected neighbors. All right, I was able to ping from that virtual client, over to, oh, he's here. Here's Alpine 1. There we go. All right. So Alpine 1 got to a physical switch through a virtual environment. I've bounced around a lot of different things, trying to show a lot in a decent amount of time. It's some more advanced, it takes a little bit of time, as I kind of mentioned before, but at least from an aspect of working in a virtual environment, there's a lot you can do with a little investment. There's a lot you can do with practically no investment. Like I say, if you've got a computer laying around, it may work. And then all you need to do at some point in time is just decide how complex do you want to build a virtual environment? Do you want to connect to a physical environment and have a hybrid lab? It's perfectly okay, perfectly fine. I've done this a lot. I went from doing presentation demos on physical gear years ago to a hybrid, some physical, some virtual, to now it's all virtual. And I carry everything on my laptop. And sometimes I also want to show a physical I can. I've shown remote physical, as well. So all of those things are basically capable to have fun.
Looks like you have a question.
I see.
Yeah.
Profiles. Actually, some of them are already out there. My favorite V6 one is, and if you'll bear with me for just a minute, they're out on cellstream.com, and I'll get you that. I'll get you that link here in just a second. While we're resources. There's actually a bunch of profiles out there that he's curated. So I will put that here in the local chat, and I will put it over here in the Discord chat. So search in there, you can just search for V6, IPv6, or Jeff Carrell is where I put my favorite. It's not my most latest. I don't have the newest features in that particular one, but it definitely has a lot of my V6 ones in there. Just one of the greatest capabilities that we've got with Wireshark, with the display filters and the nested filters now. So there you have that. So we still have time for questions. I don't necessarily have anything else explicitly to show. We could pop over right quick and see if that, it doesn't look like that Cisco router came up yet. So that's okay. But it is, they say, about that easy. And as I've mentioned many times already, there's a lot you can do in a virtual lab, whether it is some hybrids of protocols or technologies, all the above. And configurations that are out there. Like I say, there's some of those GNS3 samples, at least one that I showed, and I've got 2 or 3 others where the folks, they shared their GNS3 profile. Now, the only thing about sharing the GNS3 profile, like into this case, or especially in, we'll just say like this case, is that sharing of the profile does not get you all those images, okay? So it gets you the base kind of like connectivity layout, but you still have to gather your images, like your OS images and things like that. So it's not like, at least in the way I'm running it, I think if you run them as Docker images, and if you ran them locally and not in a VM, and then you saved out your GNS3, you can save it out as what they call a project. I think it's portable then. But if some are in a VM and some are on another place, you kind of have to still package all that together. Like I say, it is still portable because I'm doing it in my own labs, but I have to make copies of all that stuff. And take it to the next computer, and it sort things out to about 6 directories, and take out some of the default config, put in the actual config files, a little bit of that, but it's still quite fun. And the nice thing is to be able to do things like into that. Okay, so what else do we have? Any other comments, questions, team? We have time, not rushing. I know up next in Zoom 2 is Megumi-san. Woohoo! I'll be signing up for her session. Wireshark on an iPad? I thought Gerald said yesterday that that doesn't exist. That's going to be fun. What we love about this gathering, everybody sharing their cool tech. Okay, team. First top security feature. Okay, so kind of a generic question. Yes, I have worked in some of the first top security features, a little bit of Cisco, a little bit in what was formerly known as ProCurve OS, now is Aruba OS. I won't say super in depth, but have, you know, the RA blocks and the DHCPv6 blocks, or RA guard, DHCPv6 guard. They basically work. You know, you're effectively doing trusted ports of where those types of protocols should come in from, or replies come in from, and blocking it on all the other like endpoint ports of those devices. There are some ways to get around them as well, but you know, generically they do their base job that they're to do. Actually, one of the things I have been wanting to work on, and I just haven't done yet, is doing some first hop security functionality in a virtual environment. All of mine have been on physical, partly because sometimes it wasn't available on their virtual version of code. That's only, it gives me a quick little tangent here to comment on that. Virtual code, especially in infrastructure devices with switch router, firewall type devices, there are going to be times that you cannot get certain kinds of features in virtual code because they're tied to the ASICs. And the vendors will sometimes say, and we're not going to even try to emulate it. Some do, and they'll give an emulation function, which means it's probably not going to be what you would expect from a production viewpoint. It's not going to have the speed throughput when it's a feature that they emulate in software. But if it foundationally operates, yay, you know, it's good enough for basic lab, right? I am not going to try to do high-speed performance testing in a virtual lab, just not. I would never. I would go to the gear because that's what the real world's probably going to be on. Now, some of these vendors do sell their infrastructure code as software and as production, and also have support tied around it. And they also have the constraints to say, well, you know, you're not going to get by, Jeff, with one processor and half a gig of RAM. You know, you're going to have to throw 8 processors at it and a terabyte of RAM, and then we might can do the type of performance. Oh, wait a minute, you're not going to be able to do that on that 100 meg, you know, Ethernet port or that gig Ethernet port. You're going to have some high speed ports, and on and on and on. So I'm not going to say that you can't do any of those things. It just depends on the software. So yeah, you get some of that. So the basic bits of how to get router and switch code is you've got to go to each vendor and just see what they have. Basically, use your favorite search engine and just, you know, search on Aruba OVA, Cisco OVA, Juniper OVA, all right, Mirantis OVA. Quite a few OVAs or ISOs. If you search probably either way, you will probably find, and then just go, you have to go to the vendor site officially, right? And see what they have to offer. Sometimes they may have one, again, that's a little more limited in function and capability. It may be timed. You may still even have to get a license, but it doesn't cost you, okay? I think Arista's code, EOS, you have to have a login to their system, kind of like Cisco, but you don't have to pay anything for it. But you also don't get a production grade version of the code, but it still works great for lab. I've done a lot of that. So Apple screen sharing, V6 required. I'm sorry, I have no idea. I don't have any new Apple things. I don't do a lot of Apple stuff, but certainly. What was the answer on that? Yeah, maybe somebody else would know. Can you do that? Well, team, it looks like it's about time. I'll give you a couple of extra minutes on your break before our next. I guess these are our last main sessions before the closing. Oh, there we go. Apple Remote Desktop works on IPv4. I thought so. I mean, I've already P'd on v4, v6 to Macs. I just don't know about Apple Screen Share. I've not done that. thank you everybody for coming in and the sessions. Thanks for all the great questions, participation. I look forward to our rest of our show here and in SharkFest and the future ones. And if you've got any other questions, certainly feel free to come back at another time. Let me see, I'll throw this up real quick just so that you can see. I've got what, 1 minute, if that. You can, I can't even get that screen over right. There we go, maybe. All right, I'll throw that in the chat right quick. You can catch me here if there's anything else.